Hey, welcome to the Growth Whisperers, where everything that we talk about is building enduring great companies. Everything. That's what we're about, building enduring great companies. I'm Brad Giles, and as always, I'm joined today by my co-host, Kevin Lawrence. G'day, Kevin. How are you today?
Hey, I'm doing pretty good today, Brad. It's dark. It's winter here in the north, but it's actually a great day. And I was sitting there doing some thinking about gratitude this morning, and one of the things I'm really grateful is that we get the chance to do this podcast every week and put our brains together about things that we think are most important or most relevant for people like us that are up to some substantial things in the world. So I'm thrilled to be here. I look forward to this every week.
Yeah, so do I. It's good. It's good. Well, it would be remiss of me not to mention that it's 32 degrees Celsius here today.
Oh,
So I feel it's appropriate to say that. But anyway, yeah, so things are good. Warm days are starting up here. This is really just the beginning of it. So tell me, what have we got on today's podcast?
well, today we're talking about this great opportunity and potentially need we have for recovery and maybe even resilience. It's been a crazy year, and I think a lot of people are a little more tired and worn out than they think. And so we're going to be talking about how this is a great opportunity, probably a need for you and your team to make sure you put a conscious effort into recovery and resilience so we can get ready for this really interesting year going to be called 2021 that's coming ahead of us.
Yeah, it's been a tough year, and by all accounts, it's not getting any better immediately. Like, we're in a tough environment. We go back to the Stockdale paradox, right? We spoke about this at the very
Yep.
beginning of I think that was our first episode, right? The very beginning. And that is, we've got to be able to sustain for the long term. We're definitely in the middle of the dance and the hammer and dance concept at the moment. And what I'm so
Absolutely.
excited about today, what I'm so excited about in our discussions about today's episode, is we're taking some of your book entitled Your Oxygen Mask First, and we're taking a bit of my book entitled Made to Thrive and bringing them together in something that's really, really important and timely right now. So that's pretty cool.
It sounds like Made to Thrive with Your Oxygen Mask First. Oh. I'm sure there's a much better way to put that, but yeah, it's we obviously have a lot of similar thoughts and on our similar wavelength, but at the end of the day, this will be one of the craziest years of our life. And I'm sure we'll be telling our grandchildren and our great-grandchildren about this for years and decades to come. Like, this was a wild year. But it ain't over. And one of the things we're talking about before, Brad, and this is your metaphor, it's like we've been living with a pack of lions outside the door of our house.
Yeah.
And every morning we get up kind of in a panic or a jump, wondering if they've come through the window or if they're waiting outside of us, or one happens to have snuck into our car, or who knows what. Even we go into the bathroom in the morning and we're kind of wondering, just, lurking ourselves to see if there's a lion lurking, and you don't realize the stress it has you, but that's kind of what we've been up to. It's like there is a lot more stress on the system and strain on the system than we are aware of. We're just used to it. We're used to lions being outside the door or all the doors right now. So I think it's people, we and our teams really need and deserve to really put some dedicated energy into recovery. And I think it's super important. And the challenge is that some people just go about their day, and some people will really focus on recovery. And those that don't, I think they're going to pay a big price as we go into even next year, because they carry this sort of resilience deficit with them. They'll carry this lower level of energy and clarity and even drive that they need sometimes to push through some of these obstacles. So, we're offering you some ideas to help you to be able to reset and really kick out the beginning of next year to be the best you can be.
Yeah. I want to let's get into it a bit deeper. And I want to just quickly go back to that lion metaphor that you drew. So what we're saying is the human body has evolved over time to release stress chemicals in the brain and the body when we're under threat, so that we can ultimately survive.
Yes.
But we don't live in the jungle. We live in the environment. And so all
We live in
through
the
this,
intellectual jungle, not the physical jungle.
yeah. And so all through this year, what's happened is that we've undertaken, or we've experienced um, a lot of stress-inducing hormones and chemicals that have made everybody exceptionally tired now. We're getting through, we're coping, and for some businesses, it's even meant that they've been growing at an exceptional rate. But the point
Yes.
is, people right now, so the date of recording, the date of release of this podcast, there's about 5 or 6 weeks until Christmas,
Yes.
until the end of 2020. And what we've been through, so many people are exhausted. They're just exhausted. I had a meeting with a person this morning, and she said, I didn't realize how exhausted I was until I just had a week away in the country, getting back yesterday. And she said it was phenomenal to just have the chance for the first time this year to be able to recover. But
And that's, I think,
really
what a
important.
part of it is that people are just, you got to go and do what you got to do. So, the going gets tough, the tough keep going. So people just keep doing their thing and don't give them the chance to recover and relax. And talking about it, and I think, and I talked about this before, but, I got completely burnt out and fried over all this, both with some personal things in my world and a huge amount of additional work on the work side during COVID. Plus, in addition, that was the pivoting work to deliver every service we do virtually and excellently. But then there was additional demand from clients and people needed help on stuff. So there's a lot. And, I went to my doctor because I wasn't feeling it right. My naturopath, who's
But just
amazing.
before, just before you say that, the thing that you didn't factor in is there's a pandemic. And
Yes.
this is what so many people aren't considering. There's a pandemic, there's a whole range of things that have been released in everybody. Like, what does that mean for me? Suddenly, I don't travel. Suddenly, I don't
Yes.
have all of the rituals I used to have. Suddenly, does that mean that it's going to affect me? Is my
Suddenly
health
I
at
get
risk?
in an elevator and I get anxious because there's another human being in there with me.
Yeah.
It's right. And for me, used to travel, 2 or 3 weeks a month all around the world. And I got to go to sunny places and recharge and have great interactions with my amazing clients. And we'd have lots of soul-filling activities that no longer happen. So there's been a huge change. Go ahead, Brad. You got some additional thoughts there. Please jump in.
I want to get back to your doctor. You had some personal stuff. The workload increased, but the third element is that all of the additional chemicals, anxiety you mentioned from going into a lift, all of those things add up and created more challenges for you. That's the third element. Then you went to your doctor.
Yeah, it is, and which I recommend. Lots of people do if they're not feeling right. But yeah, it wasn't. Whether or not I had COVID, I think there's a decent chance I had it early on in March because I was traveling throughout the U.S. speaking. So, and I had a lot of those symptoms in retrospect. But and I went and I just wasn't feeling right. I wasn't sleeping right. My appetite was weird. Everything was weird, and I hadn't felt like that before. And I went and found out that my stress hormones were way out of whack, way out of whack. And so I'm on a whole regime now to, a natural regime. Thankfully, I have a naturopath to reset all of those, and doing intermittent fasting to give my system a chance to recover. And I'm noticing I am feeling notably better. Like I'm feeling excellent, more energy, more clarity. My body feels better. My mind feels better. My spirit feels better. And I slipped on some of my resilience rituals, so I'm back to activity or exercise in the morning, back working out with a trainer, back doing my own workouts and doing my writing and planning in the morning because I'm getting up earlier again. Through COVID, I slipped and started staying up later and getting up later, which wipes out my prime time in the morning. So stress hormones, activities, and even nutrition. And everybody knows this stuff.
Yeah.
But sometimes you got to reset it and make some changes. And I, like, in almost a little under 3 weeks, how dramatically better I feel is notable. It's massive. I feel, again, if to use a funny word, but I feel like my spirit's sparkly again. I was writing this morning and these amazing one-liners start coming out again. It's like I'm getting back to being, now I still have work to do. The point of it for everyone is, I teach resilience. I know resilience. I'm very good at it. And I have a ton of energy and all kinds of things that are gifts for times, I guess. But, I got burnt. And, and lots of the CEOs we talk to as well. So many of you who are listening right now are. And maybe you've recovered. But, we need to really recover so we can get ahead of this thing. Because it's going to be round 2. Then probably round 3. Maybe round 4. I don't know. I'm ready for round 25. Whatever it takes. This, in my mind, and it won't. But if this thing goes on for a decade, I'll be good. Because I know what I need to do to play my best game and to adapt to it, which comes down to my own clarity. And I go back into resilience rituals we'll talk about later, but it's, body, mind, and spirit. If you dial those things in and you do the right things and you get ahead of it, it's easier, or at least you have the strength to handle it, but it's still challenging.
There will be a counter argument, which is, but the vaccine is just around the corner, or it's not that bad. Or, you know what, in Australia, as an example, we're going into summer and, we haven't had many cases lately. I think we only had 10 cases or something like that. But the point is that there is no certainty about what will happen. And even if a vaccine is distributed, it's not going to go everywhere, and it's still going to be a challenging environment.
They did a calculation. Before it would get to, quote, normal people in Canada would probably be a year. First, it's going to go to, I don't know who's first, but what I know second or third are all the healthcare professionals that are taking care of everybody, rightly so.
Yeah.
So by the time it trickles down to you and I, unless we find a system where we can pay for service and pay to get ahead of the line, safe bet is a year. Oh, and by the way, they say it's 95% effective from the last that I heard. Okay. So does a 95% effective vaccine that might take a year to get through a country, is that going to change the world quickly? I don't think so. Now, I hope so. I want to be optimistic. But yes, there's all kinds of, look at, there's people doing anti-mask, protests and stuff and saying that we shouldn't have to do it. Hey, that's your choice, and wherever country you're in, that's probably your right. But no matter what, whether you believe it or not, and we're not here to say that, we're just saying it is the environment. And, a lot of countries haven't seen a big economic impact. That could be, we don't know, and we just want to be prepared for whatever happens.
What I do know?
Tell me.
You know what I do know?
Tell us, please.
I know that 2021 is going to be tough.
Oh yeah, that is the safest bet there is. And if it does, and if you happen to be wrong, it's like plan for the worst and hope for the best. If you happen to be wrong, which I agree with you that it will be challenging, but if you happen to be wrong, woohoo, let's have a party. And probably be allowed to have 2 people or something. But but odds are
it's going to be tough.
That is the most practical, prudent bet right now.
So if you want to build an enduring great company, or you're a leader in an enduring great company, and we know the best bet right now is that next year is going to be tough, it begs the question, how full is your tank of energy right now? Is that right? And therefore, what do you need to do to recharge that tank of energy? Maybe you're at 20%, maybe at 30, 40, 50, 70%, I don't know. But you've got some level of energy through the fatigue and the chemicals and everything that's happened this year. Next year is going to be tough. And therefore, how?
When I said I was writing and I started to get these one-liners coming again, I just got another one. It's not that exciting, but it's right to the point. 2021 is going to be tough. And you got to be tougher. Hey, I should run for president or something, right? It's like, but make yourself great. Make yourself great again. Make yourself great. But the thing is, if it is going to be tough, we got to be stronger. That's it. We got to be more resilient. We got to have extra. If we're doing a long journey and there's no gas stations along the way, we got to have extra gas in the back. We got to have extra gas in the tank. So being more resilient is the safest bet you can have. And heck, it's about taking care of yourself anyways. So, if you haven't, book some days off. If your company has an opportunity to have a bit of downtime over the holidays, or, lots of our clients are busy right up until, the 25th or 26th. And then some of them, they get a gap. But if there is a gap, use it, right? Find a way to leverage it. And what is it you need to do to recover for you? Like if you were to take a personal day, personal being you, just you, not about your family or your friends or other things, like what are you going to do for a personal day? And just have some time for whatever it is you need to do. And I don't know what, some people, it might be cleaning out their garage or organizing stuff. I don't know. Like everyone, there's the old Marie Kondo book, which is about cleaning out your closets and organizing your drawers, right? Like maybe that's what you need to do. Maybe you need to go have some fun and connect with friends. I don't know, but just like I'd encourage everyone to have a me day, and find a time that's convenient for your family. But what can you do? And maybe it's with your family. But what do you got to do to do that? So I think we got a few ideas here, Brad. So why don't we dig in? Go ahead.
Imagine that as you look around your office, because first of all, it's you, right? You've got to come back recharged. I would say in Australia, typically, now every industry is different, every job's different, I get that. But typically the average person have 1, maybe 2 weeks off over let's say the Christmas, New Year break. It's probably more the norm than it is abnormal. A lot of industries, let's say, perhaps shut down. Like you'll ring up and you won't be able to get someone. They're not coming back till the 10th or something like that. So it does depend on the country, and there's different religious affiliations with Christmas and countries. But if we can think beyond that, it's still a new year. And if you look around your team, first of all, assess yourself and think, well, how empty is my tank? And then look around the office and imagine that each person has above their head like a fuel gauge, like on the car, and how empty is that tank? But then the job to be done is, how can I get everybody to come back in January? Let's say the goal being by the 14th of January, we want everybody to have as full a tank as possible. And then what is your job as a leader in doing that? It's so important to understand that your job is a part of that. Looking around, assessing where is each person's fuel level, and then what do you need to do to get that up, to get that up? Because there are things that you can do.
Yeah, that's a great way to look at it, because, for a lot of people that we work directly with, we talk about these things all the time and they're decent at it. So what do you got to do to top up your tank? And if you're running at half, what do you got to do to get it full? But then really thinking about your people and their people, and that's a great way to look at it, Brad. I love it. And I would think about it in terms of an oxygen tank, right? From putting your oxygen mask on first. If people were going to rely on that, how full is that? How long can they go? How long can they last? Great thinking. Yeah. And the question is, what is this like right now? Like for you, where do you think your tank's at right now?
Gee, I would say, I had a few days off in October. So I would have to say it'd be 60% maybe. Mm-hmm. Like, knowing that I'm going to have some time off over Christmas, I'm okay with it being a bit lower. Normally it might be 65 or 70% at this time of year, I think. Certainly last year it was worse, but I'd say it'd be about 60% at a guess. But I am pretty I try to look after my resilience rituals pretty well.
Yeah, and
And
I
what about
think
you?
I got down to like 30, 40. I was depleted. As I was listening to you, I think I'm 75 or 80 right now. Now, that's what I believe. I could be wrong. Once you get more, you realize you had less sometimes. But I feel quite good. I'd say, let's just say it's in the 70 to 80 range. I've got some time off over the holidays. I got a couple weeks off. And I got a bunch of fun things planned that I know will rebuild my resilience. Like normally in the summer, we get out and go, boating, and I go motorcycling, and we go car racing and kart racing and all with friends, and that really fills my tanks. But I've been focused on this seriously the last 3 weeks. Like even, I've got a great friend of mine lives locally. He's like 3 blocks away, and we got out for like an hour and a half walk on Saturday morning. We did the same last weekend, so it's time with a buddy. Walking, and had some good time with my kids over the weekend. So I'm actually like, I'm way better than I was. And I want to top it up some more. And usually for me, like one of the indicators is my creativity. Like I'm feeling my creative mind. Like it's like when I'm worn down, there's not enough to fuel the creativity. And, the creativity comes in terms of planning cool activities to do. And it shows up in my writing and communication as well, both work and otherwise. So, yeah. So, but I've been working damn hard at it, so I should be at that point. And I know I need to do more.
So it's an arbitrary measure. It's an arbitrary number,
Yeah.
but like you're not 10% and you're not 99%. And the person who's listening who may have also done that and thought, I'm about 40% or 45%. Like as a leader, thinking about that for yourself, looking around your team and thinking, where do I think those people are is really the first step. But then what do I need to do about it? Right. And I'm not saying you need to go and spend a huge amount of money at all on your team, but the messaging is quite important. The things that you communicate, and that's why it's timely right now, because people are starting to think about that Christmas period. What are they going to do? How much do they need to work? They've got an obligation. Maybe they've just saved the business, whatever it might be.
Yeah. Or they might have lost the business. Like who knows what it is?
Yeah.
And don't forget other crazy things have happened during these times. Deaths in families. There's been some other crazy traumatic stuff. So I think the first thing is that what is your plans for you and your team just to reset and to recover, right? And just like elite athletes, elite athletes have peak training periods, then they have recovery periods. They cannot go full throttle all year round. Now, maybe unless they get some extra special supplements or something. But generally, they cannot continue. They have peak and then rest periods, peak and rest periods. It was interesting. I was listening, I mentioned before a podcast with Mike Tyson, and he talks about the mental and physical training he does to compete. By the way, I think he's fighting this month. If he is, I want to make sure I see it. He's coming back in his 50s. But he talks about how he builds it up, but it's not sustainable. It's like you get yourself into a freakish mindset and physical space. So yeah, just knowing what is your plan now that we've all peaked, whether we want to or not, in your recovery period. And if you're already doing it, congratulations. But the second thing is to really just acknowledge and honor the fact is that you are likely more stressed than you think. Again, like the lions outside the door. We just got used to it.
And you don't know it. You just
don't know it. Your body does, because if your body's doing some funny things, which I know mine was, it's another thing just to realize and just step back and look. Like I step back and look at this year, it was freaking crazy.
Yeah.
Like I look at the stuff, it was insane. Like my whole world was changed upside down, and many others. And for people that travel, they don't travel. For people that like to socialize, well, you're told you can't socialize in a lot of places. It's learning. It's wild. So a lot of people's things they did to feel good and to feel resilient. Like we've had to master the art. It was my parents' 56th wedding anniversary the day before yesterday. Oh, but I grabbed a bottle of champagne. I congratulated them on the phone, and I go out the window of their place and give them a bottle of champagne to pop. I'm not going in the house, not doing a lot of the stuff that you would normally do because you can't.
Yeah.
So there's been an impact on just stress and change, anxiety,
So you
all
can't trust how you feel, is what we're saying here.
exactly.
And you're probably more stressed out. And there's like a debt, like a sleep debt that you have incurred throughout this year and that your team has incurred that you need to manage if you're going to successfully come back
Yep.
and deal with what you're facing in 2021.
Yes.
And so then we move, yeah.
And you got to find a way to appreciate it and see somehow this is the best thing that ever happened to us and how it's good for us, so we can honor it and take it as energy versus taking it as baggage. And that's part of the heart. We want, there could be a victim mindset. Whoa, this is bad. Oh, this is not right. This is not fair. Those are all possible stories. But they give you, when you find a meaning for the stress and you see that it's good for you, you tend to have positive benefits rather than negative effects. So let's go. The third thing. Bring it home, Brad. You were good to go. I cut you off.
Third thing, 2021 is not likely to be a walk in the park. Look, we touched on that. Now, we don't know, but it's not going to. The only thing we know is that it's not going to be easy. And early on, for a lot of the times on this podcast, we've spoken about the hammer and the dance. What we're seeing at the moment is in Australia, the case numbers are dropping. In North America, and let's just say the whole Northern Hemisphere, really, because of the impending winter, cases and a whole range of things, cases are rising. So this is the dance. The hammer is squash it early and then try to squash the outbreaks as they occur. Some countries are better at that, some are worse. I'm not really concerned about the politics of all of that, other than to say this is the dance. This increase, things go up, things go down. It's a very challenging and taxing environment. We don't know how long it'll go for, but we know one thing, that 2021 will be very challenging, and you've got to recharge and keep ahead of it. If you can just kind of compose yourself, how can we be a successful team in 2021? That is all completely predicated by everybody coming back with a full tank, or as full a tank as you can.
100%. Yeah, and it kind of takes us into our fourth point is that we want to go into it loaded up, stocked up. You know how a lot of part of the world, people started stockpiling toilet paper for some weird reason. That seemed to be a high priority resource. I bet you could have sold it for amazing profit. I'm sure some people did. But it's
I'm not worried about the food. I'm not worried about the food. I'm just worried about one thing, right? I don't want to have to not use toilet paper.
Yeah, which, I mean, there is some logic to it, but probably more just herd mentality. The herd got
herd mentality, yep.
Stocked up. But whatever. Hey, I now have more on hand than I normally would. And I've got other stuff as a backup. But yeah, it got a little crazy. But it's better to be stocked up. If we're going to go to battle, it's kind of helpful to have more guns and ammo and soldiers than you need. That's a great way to go into it. If you're going into a battle in a company, it's better to have more cash and access to resources than you need. If you're in a business with crazy swings in supply, you're going to hold inventory. And so how do you be over-resourced, extra energized before we go into this? Not coming out on your hind foot, but coming out ready to go, because there's massive business opportunities. Massive.
So what you're really saying is, don't bring a knife to a gunfight, or as one of my fellow countrymen said, that's not a knife, this is a knife. Sorry.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
You've got to be prepared.
You want to bring a serious automatic rifle to a knife fight if you can, right? That's competition. You want to come with more resources, more power, and be able to win.
That was Crocodile Dundee.
Is it? Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah, it's okay.
Thank you for that.
I was the only one that got that.
Yeah,
And
you were.
but
Well,
I
I'm sure
enjoyed it.
somebody else would have. I'm a little slow on those things, so.
No problem.
Is that? Did he pull out a massive knife? Then that's not a knife.
He's on the
This is a
streets of
knife.
That's it. That's the Australian. You know, what is Australians most famous for? He was in New York and in the movie, and some gang members come up to him with a little pocket knife, and he just looks at them with a funny look and brings out this knife the size of his arm and says, "That's not a knife," and then they run away. So, but the principle is there. Like, we've got to be prepared for 2021. We've got to. It's the same
totally.
thing. Like, it's. And what if that's the only competitive advantage that you've got?
I think it is
going in.
If I look at the companies that we work with that have done exceptionally well, it's because they've had amazing, strong teams of high performers. And high performers by nature will thrive during these situations, and they will deplete themselves and often need a bigger recovery than a normal person because they push themselves so hard. So yes, I agree that it has been the greatest competitive advantage for lots of people we work with.
And look now, what if your competitors don't treat it with the same level of respect, and they don't try to recharge their teams in the way that we're talking about? Maybe that could give you the edge. Yeah.
Perfect. The lions outside the door need something to eat.
Yeah. And your competitors are a great opportunity for that.
So, when we look at this and how do you get stronger, it's body, mind, and spirit, which is the resilience rituals chapter in my book, Your Oxygen Mask First. It's what do you do for your mind to be clear and grounded and centered and focused on what matters? What do you do for your body to be strong and have lots of energy and physical resilience? And what do you do for your spirit to be inspired, like, in the word spirit? So you feel good and, there's like sparkles coming out of you when you talk, and I'm exaggerating a bit, but you've got great energy and you're inspired and you kind of want to get at it, right? You've got
Can you
extra
give us an
energy.
example
You want
of
to do
each
something.
of those? I'm sorry, I cut you off.
Totally. So for it's and again in my book, there's a thing called the Resilience Rituals Grid where you plan out your body, mind, and spirit, what you do, when you do it, and how often you do it. And so for me, for my body, it's activity, exercise in the morning, which like it's some sort of, whether it's treadmill, bike, or whatever it is, but working out, with a trainer, or where I'm sweating fairly good at least a couple times a week, but working out some activity 5 times a week to start the day. That's big for my body, and stretching because I need to. My body loves me when I stretch. I need them, and things are getting tighter. For my mind, it's writing in a journal. Writing and just letting my thoughts flow. And whether I write an article or I just write for sanity is fine. And then updating my to-do list. Updating my to-do list helps me to get focused and organized because there's always too much to do. And then spirit, I got a whole list. But it's like connecting with friends, right? And when you and I get to do this podcast, it's a piece of that. And it could be my friends I go do activities with. Like we're going to go, snow biking, this cross between dirt biking and snowmobiling. We're going to go snow biking next weekend. Getting out for a walk with my other buddy I did on Saturday morning. My son and I getting out and going for a drive. Listening to music. I mean, I love live music. I can't do that anymore. Listening to audiobooks. Next weekend, time with my kids and friends locally is awesome. But next weekend, I get to get in my car, drive up into the mountains for 4 or 5 hours, listening to audiobooks. While I do that, that is bliss for me. And then we get to go play on these snow bikes. And most people, like I'm driving back and forth over a couple of days, playing the snow bikes in the mountains, laughing our butts off, getting stuck, having a great time, hang out, and then drive back, listening to audiobooks. Like that is a blissful 24 to 40, probably 48-hour period. That will, it'll be great for everything, but I will be so rejuvenated because I have tons of friends where I'm going. We're going to have a great time. And the time by myself listening to audiobooks, which is, listening to another friend who happens to be a master at a topic. I mean, metaphorically a friend. So that's, there's so many other things, but, driving is a piece for me. There's all these things that, we know what they are. One executive I work with, his mind / spirit, he calls making it the grass green. At the end of the day, he lives in a very hot climate, and he actually lives in India, and he just likes to water the grass and see how green he can make the grass. It's kind of like his therapy. So I gave you a big list, but generally it's 1 or 2 things in each category that you've done in the past and make a difference. The only one that people haven't sometimes done in the past is the mental piece, right? Things like meditation, writing, or gratitude practice are things that some people haven't had to do yet, although COVID's probably a good catalyst for those things.
Yeah. That's awesome. And so we've got to think about, if that is the style of recovery and resilience building of those rituals, how can we apply that to this specific period of time? Yes. And get our teams to do the right thing. And the right thing is to come back with a full tank, to come back energized and ready for work, but to be mindful and conscious about it going into that, starting now. And that really is where it comes back, after we've got that context from you, is where it comes back to my book, Made to Thrive. And in particular, which is about the 5 roles of a CEO. And in particular, the second role, which is ambassador. And that is being a conscious ambassador for the customers, for the employees, for the stakeholders, and being the person who will guide the messaging as well. And so people respect what you inspect. So if you say nothing and just fall into the Christmas break, people might think, well, I've got to do a bit of work, or I've got to catch up. Or on the other side, if you say, now is the time that everyone on our team needs to think about, how are we going to come back fully recharged as a team? How are we going to start on the 10th of January or whatever it is with our full tank? People will fall behind that messaging. People will understand it if you do it correctly and respect it. And we can, it's like the most important thing that we can do as leaders now.
Yeah, and people need role models and permission to do that.
Yeah.
And as a leader, and that's why I love that part of your book, Brad, as leaders, we are that person. Now, we're putting it in your mind so you can put it in the minds of your people, but people need that. And it's critical. That ambassador role is so important. That's what a culture is. Some cultures are focused on taking care of people more. And that would take us to our point number 5 as well, Brad, is it's who. Who else do you need to get the support, the resources, the training, the whatever it happens to be for both you and your team to thrive more in 2021 and to be able to recover more as we go into 2021? So think about it. What else might you benefit from? Like, I've done a ton of keynotes on stress and resilience, because that's in my book, to organizations, and it really gives people an eye opener because it gets into mental health and stuff. But maybe your company needs that. Maybe your company needs stuff on time management, or maybe your company needs stuff on taking times off, or maybe you need an expert to help figure out how you can get your people to take more holidays. Maybe you need to optimize your meetings so you have less meetings and more effective meetings so people don't have to work all hours of the day. Like, I don't know what it is, but there's going to be a who or some sort of an expert or a been there, done that person that can really help you with this. And sometimes we get too focused on trying to do it internally. For example, for one of the CEOs I work with, it's like his challenge was he wasn't doing his workouts. I'm like, great. In the end, he's like, how about getting a trainer? If he has someone he's externally accountable for the workouts, they might be more likely to happen. So the who is usually the easy way or the best way to help some of these things happen versus trying to figure out how to do it yourself.
Yeah. Who is the person that can help either you or you and your team or any of your team members to fully reset, to fully charge up that tank? Everybody's different. Everyone draws things from different ways. I said to my wife only last night, how about if we have a barbecue? That'd be really good. And I knew that subconsciously that the barbecue is one of my rituals that I need to be creative and to do something that isn't to do with building enduring great businesses, just so that I can reset, because everything else is. And she didn't necessarily totally get the depth of the concept,
because it's not what she needs.
Yeah, but
what
I was
something.
I was fairly insistent.
Yeah, of course. Well, because you know what you need, and we all need different things, and that's cool. In the perfect world with resilience rituals, we teach you to make a list called mine and yours. Hey, here's my list. Hey, honey, what's yours? Let's find a way to make them both happen so it doesn't feel like a selfish pull. You're both figure out what you need to be your best, and then it's a beautiful thing.
And that's a really important point. I love that you brought that up, because the other thing for leaders within an organization, male or female, is your partner as well. Because if you're fully recharged and your partner's at 20% of fuel tank, like, that's going to have an impact on you. So you've got to think.
And it's not going to be positive, and they're going to be in a lot of pain anyways.
Yeah. So think about your family as well. And I don't know what degree to think about your team's families, but maybe that becomes a part of your messaging. So it's about
the messaging is thinking about yourself and your family. So when you're talking to your teams, what do you need to do for yourself? And then what do you need to do for your family to help them, or at least open a door or be a catalyst for them and their resilience and well-being? You can't, there's a saying, you can lead a horse to water, you can't make them drink. But at least to get the conversation on the table and make it possible or open for them. Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. Hey, this was a lot of fun, Brad. Great topic. And it's very important because, we are sometimes so focused on what we're doing for other people. And I guess I'm talking about myself and yourself and lots of the great leaders listening, that we forget that we need a little extra help ourselves too, especially this year. And we deserve it. We have busted our butts doing our best work that we are capable of. And we've grown and learned. And we deserve a rest. We need a rest. We need some time to cool off, get some stuff resorted, and get yourself ready to go for the next year. So thank you guys for listening, and gals for listening. This has been the Growth Whisperers with Brad, the amazing Brad Giles, and myself, Kevin Lawrence. For the video version, go to YouTube and go search for the Growth Whisperers. And for Brad, evolutionpartners.com.au. And for me, lawrenceandco.com. Have an awesome week. Take great care of yourself and your teams.